Nora refused to touch the pencil. It rested on the kitchen table as though someone had placed it there moments earlier, its sharpened tip pointing toward the blank page in front of her. She stepped back instead. The chair behind her scraped across the floor, breaking the silence that had settled over the house. Nothing answered. No footsteps, no scratching, no whisper. That frightened her more than the chaos from the night before, because whatever had been tormenting her no longer needed to announce its presence. Some predators become far more dangerous once they stop chasing. She searched the house again. Every room, every closet, every corner. There was still no sign of her mother. Only one thing suggested she had ever been there. A mug of coffee sat on the dining table, still warm. Nora reached out carefully. Steam curled into the air. Her mother couldn't have been gone for long. Then she noticed something beneath the mug, a folded piece of paper. 4 hurried words covered the front. "Don't trust the drawings." Nora unfolded it immediately. Inside was another message. They don't show the future anymore. Now they create it. Her grip loosened. The paper slipped from her fingers and drifted onto the floor. For days she had believed the drawings were warnings, predictions, evidence. Now everything shifted. If the note was true, the pictures weren't recording events. They were deciding them. That possibility changed every memory she'd been clinging to. A faint thump echoed above her. The attic. Not loud, just enough to pull her attention upward. Then came another, followed by the slow scrape of wood across wood. Someone, or something, was moving furniture. Nora climbed the stairs cautiously. Each step felt heavier than the last. Halfway up, she noticed the hallway photographs again. They had changed. Not just Lily this time. Several family pictures now showed empty spaces where relatives should have been. Frames hung slightly crooked, as though the photographs themselves had been edited in a hurry. One portrait stopped her completely. It showed her 10th birthday. She remembered blowing out the candles. She remembered laughing. But in the photograph, she was completely alone. No parents, no guests, no birthday cake. Only Nora standing in the middle of the room, smiling at someone beyond the edge of the picture. Her stomach turned. She slowly lifted the frame from the wall. Written on the back, in childish handwriting, were 6 words. "It started drawing before I could." Nora stared at the sentence. She had written it years ago. Yet she couldn't remember ever holding that frame. A frightening thought settled into her mind. Perhaps the missing memories weren't stolen. Perhaps she'd willingly surrendered them. The scraping above stopped. Silence returned. Then, one soft knock, not on the attic door, from inside it. Nora reached for the handle. Before her fingers touched the wood, a voice drifted through, calm, patient, almost gentle. "Nora." It wasn't pretending to be her mother. It wasn't pretending to be Nora. It sounded like someone who had known both of them for a very long time. And somehow, that was even worse. Every warning has an expiration date. After that, it becomes an invitation. The attic door slowly unlocked from the inside. The lock clicked, once, twice. Then the attic door eased inward without anyone touching it. Nora remained frozen at the threshold. The room beyond looked nothing like the attic she had entered before. The boxes were gone. The old furniture had vanished. Even the dusty beams overhead looked newer somehow. Only one object remained. A large wooden drafting table stood in the center of the room beneath a single hanging lamp. Sheets of paper covered its surface. Every page contained a different drawing. Every drawing contained Nora. The terrifying part wasn't that the drawings existed. It was that they were all still unfinished. She stepped closer. One sketch showed her standing exactly where she was now. Another showed her reaching toward the table. Another showed her turning around in fear. Each page captured a moment that hadn't happened yet. As she watched, the pencil lines shifted. New details appeared without anyone touching the paper. The drawings were updating themselves. Nora understood she wasn't looking at predictions anymore. She was watching possibilities choose themselves. A faint rustling sound drifted from the far corner. She turned quickly. Her mother sat quietly in an old wooden chair, hands resting on her lap, eyes fixed on the drafting table. "Mom!" Nora hurried forward, but halfway across the room, her mother lifted one hand. "Don't come any closer." Something in her voice made Nora stop immediately. It wasn't fear, it was resignation. "I've been here before," her mother said softly. "Years ago." Nora felt the floor shift beneath her certainty. "What do you mean?" Her mother looked toward the endless drawings. "When you disappeared as a child, this is where I found you." A long silence followed. "You weren't drawing." Another pause. "You were choosing." Those words settled over the room like heavy fog. Nora stared at the unfinished pages covering the table. Each one waited for a final stroke. One final decision. An unsettling realization surfaced. Every completed drawing in the past had become reality because someone had finished it. A pencil rolled slowly across the drafting table. No hands touched it. It stopped directly in front of Nora, waiting. She didn't pick it up. Instead, she looked around the room. Only then did she notice the walls. Thousands of framed drawings hung from floor to ceiling. Each frame held a different face. Children, adults, elderly people. Some smiling, some frightened, some half erased. Beneath every portrait was a date. The oldest was more than 200 years old. The newest had today's date. Nora's name was written underneath it. Her pulse stumbled. "This wasn't made for me." Her mother lowered her head. "No, it was waiting for you." The hanging lamp flickered gently. A breeze turned one sheet of paper over by itself. On the back, only one sentence had been written. "Every keeper believes they're the last." Nora looked up slowly. "The keeper?" Her mother closed her eyes. "The one who holds the pencil." The room fell silent again. Then, from somewhere deep inside the walls, a child laughed. Not cruelly, not happily, just knowingly. Some prisons don't have locked doors, because the next prisoner always walks in willingly. Nora looked at the final blank page on the drafting table. Across the bottom, someone had already signed her name. Nora stared at the signature. It was flawless. Every curve, every letter, exactly the way she signed legal documents, exactly the way she had signed birthday cards, exactly the way she had signed the visitor log at work 2 days earlier. She hadn't written it, yet there it was, waiting beneath a completely blank page. A quiet dread settled over her. Someone already knew how her story was supposed to end. She reached toward the paper, then stopped. No, that was exactly what it wanted. She pulled her hand back. The blank page remained still. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, the signature slowly began fading, not disappearing, being erased. Tiny graphite particles lifted from the page as though an invisible eraser was rubbing across it. Nora watched in disbelief. When the last letter vanished, new handwriting appeared, slowly, deliberately. one word at a time. Good. Another line followed. You finally stopped following the drawings. Nora's heartbeat slowed. That sentence didn't sound like a threat. It sounded encouraging. She looked toward her mother. Her mother looked just as confused. For the first time since opening the box, the drawings had reacted to a choice she made instead of predicting it. The blank page began filling itself again, not with pictures, with words. Every person before you believed the drawings controlled the future. None of them asked who was making them. A cold silence settled over the attic. Nora looked around the room again. Thousands of framed portraits, thousands of completed lives, but no artist, no creator, only finished work. Her breathing steadied. If someone had drawn every life, where were they? That question changed everything. A soft creak echoed behind the drafting table. One of the walls shifted inward slightly, just enough to reveal a narrow doorway hidden behind the frames. Darkness waited beyond it. Her mother stared at the opening. I've never seen that before. Neither had Nora, which meant it hadn't wanted anyone to see it until now. She stepped toward the hidden doorway. The air grew noticeably colder, not uncomfortable, ancient, as if the room beyond had remained sealed for centuries. Inside sat a single wooden chair, facing another easel. Unlike the first one, this easel already held a completed drawing. Nora moved closer, then stopped. It wasn't a picture of her. It wasn't a picture of Lily. It wasn't even a person. It was a child, sitting alone, drawing the very first picture. And standing behind that child was another child, holding another pencil. The cycle stretched backward endlessly. Each artist had once been someone else's drawing. Nora finally understood the terrible truth. There had never been one creature. There had only ever been successors. The monster wasn't born. It was inherited, passed from one frightened child to the next, not through violence, through belief. Every child who accepted the pencil became the next keeper. Every keeper filled the walls with new lives, and every new life eventually returned to this attic. Her chest didn't tighten. Instead, a strange calm settled over her, because for the first time, she knew how the cycle worked, which meant it could finally be broken. Just then, a fresh sheet of paper slid onto the easel by itself. A pencil rolled beside it. Neither moved again. Neither forced her. They simply waited. Some curses survive because nobody questions the rules. The moment someone does, the curse begins to crack. Nora smiled faintly. Then she picked up the blank sheet, not the pencil. Nora folded the blank sheet in half, then again, and again, until it was nothing more than a small square resting in her palm. The pencil remained untouched on the easel, waiting, expecting. Nothing happened. The room stayed perfectly still. For the first time since discovering the box in the attic, the silence didn't feel threatening. It felt uncertain. Something had expected obedience. Instead, it was witnessing defiance. A faint vibration passed through the wooden floor. Not violent, curious, like the house itself had paused to see what Nora would do next. She placed the folded paper inside her pocket. "I'm not playing anymore," she said quietly. Her voice echoed through the hidden chamber. No whisper answered. No laughter followed. Only the soft hum of the hanging lamp. Behind her, her mother stared in disbelief. "I've never seen anyone refuse it." Nora looked back. "Maybe that's the problem." Her mother frowned. "What do you mean?" Nora slowly turned toward the walls covered in portraits. Thousands of frightened faces, thousands of completed stories. They all believed the only choices were to draw or to run. She glanced at the untouched pencil. What if there was always a third choice? The thought settled over the room like the first crack, spreading through old glass. Without warning, every framed drawing trembled, one after another. The portraits began slipping from the walls, not falling, lowering themselves, until every frame rested gently against the floor. The hidden chamber suddenly looked empty, as though it were shedding its history. Then, something extraordinary happened. The graphite lines inside the portraits began fading. Faces disappeared, backgrounds dissolved, names vanished from the labels beneath them. Within seconds, every frame held nothing but clean white paper. Nora watched in stunned silence. The drawings weren't being destroyed, they were being released. For the first time in centuries, the stories were no longer trapped inside the paper. A warm breeze swept through the chamber. The stale scent of graphite disappeared, replaced by fresh rain drifting through the attic window. The air felt lighter, easier to breathe. Her mother slowly covered her mouth. I remember. Nora looked at her. Tears rolled down her mother's face. Lily? The name came effortlessly this time. No hesitation, no confusion. I remember, Lily. Nora's own memories shifted, not painfully, gently. Birthday parties, school holidays, shared secrets, a little girl laughing beside her beneath a mango tree. Lily had never truly vanished. She had simply been hidden beneath the drawings. Every forgotten life was quietly finding its way home again. Then, a single clap echoed behind them. Both women turned instantly. At the entrance to the hidden chamber stood a little boy, no older than 8. He wore dusty clothes covered with faint graphite stains. His hands held no pencil, only an old sketchbook pressed against his chest. He smiled sadly. I've been waiting. Nora's pulse slowed. Who are you? The boy looked toward the empty frames lining the walls. I was the first. Silence filled the chamber, not frightening, heartbreaking. I thought if I kept drawing. He lowered his eyes. I wouldn't be forgotten. Nora felt tears gathering. The boy had never wanted to become a monster. He had only been afraid of disappearing, just like every child after him. The horror had never been born from evil. It had been born from loneliness. The little boy slowly extended the sketchbook toward Nora. You don't need this anymore. She accepted it carefully. The cover crumbled slightly with age. Before she could open it, the boy smiled one last time. Then, like graphite caught in the wind, he quietly scattered into countless tiny black particles. The breeze carried them through the attic window, into the morning light, gone, not erased, finally free. Sometimes the oldest curse begins with the smallest fear. The fear that one day, everyone will forget you. Nora looked down at the sketchbook. There was only one page left unopened. The final page. Nora held the old sketchbook carefully. It felt impossibly light now, as though whatever burden it carried had already begun to leave with the little boy. Her mother stood beside her without speaking. Neither of them wanted to open the final page, not because they feared another horror, because they feared one last goodbye. Some endings aren't frightening because they're dangerous. They're frightening because they're permanent. Nora slowly opened the cover. Only one sheet remained. Unlike every drawing she had seen before, it was completely blank. No graphite, no crayon, no hidden message, just clean white paper. She frowned. After everything, after every terrifying sketch, this couldn't be the ending. She turned the page over. Nothing. Then, as sunlight reached the paper through the attic window, faint silver writing appeared, not drawn, pressed gently into the page years ago. It read, "The future belongs to the person who refuses to let fear write it." Nora stood perfectly still. No hidden creature emerged. No whisper followed. No unfinished face appeared behind her. Only silence. Peaceful silence. The kind she had almost forgotten could exist. In that moment, Nora understood the final lesson her childhood self had been trying to leave behind. The drawings had never controlled destiny. Fear had. Every prediction she believed, every nightmare she obeyed, every picture she accepted without question, had given the curse another page to continue. But the moment she stopped believing the drawings had authority over her life, the cycle had nowhere else to go. She closed the sketchbook gently. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sunlight spilled across the attic floor, warming corners that had remained cold for as long as anyone could remember. Her mother smiled through quiet tears. It's over. Nora looked around the attic one last time. The drafting table had vanished. The hidden doorway was gone. The empty frames had disappeared. Only ordinary boxes filled with old family belongings remained. Just an attic. Nothing more. Weeks later, life slowly returned to normal. Family photographs never changed again. Lily's pictures stayed exactly where they belonged. Her relatives remembered her stories. They laughed about moments they had unknowingly lost for years. The strange graphite marks never returned, and Nora never found another mysterious drawing. One autumn afternoon, she carried the old sketchbook to the small hill behind her childhood home. She dug a shallow hole beneath the largest tree, placed the book inside, covered it with earth. No ceremony, no words. Some stories deserved to rest. As she turned to leave, a little girl walking with her father paused nearby. The child looked toward the tree, then smiled warmly at Nora. "Thank you," she whispered. Before Nora could answer, the girl simply continued walking, laughing as she disappeared down the path. Nora watched until they were out of sight. Then she smiled for the first time in a very long while. Not because she finally understood every mystery, but because she no longer needed to. Some questions were never meant to imprison you forever. Sometimes, they were only meant to lead you back to yourself. The darkest stories don't always end with another nightmare. Sometimes they end when someone chooses hope over fear. And that's the ending no curse ever expects.